Begin the current Daf Mesechtes Bava Kama Daf Chav Zayin. Begin on the second line down at the top of the Amud, where the Gemara continues with different teachings from Rabbah, which they share similar themes regarding throwing off from a roof and regarding the other person causing the damage. The question is regarding the status of that, because it's already a damage that's already entertained once it's already thrown off the roof. That's the question regarding the last one who does something. How do you qualify that act? Today's Daf for throughout the entire world. So discussing today's Daf are, like we said, several halachas of Rabbah regarding Nizikin. One of them we mentioned the previous Daf of Eiku, Asara b'nei Adam, Asara Malklois, related to the machlokes regarding between Yehudim Sever Rabbanon, if 10 people hit someone and then he dies, regarding the halacha of the last person having killed him. Machlokes regarding the chiv kaifer, if a shor mood killed a person. So then there's a general question, when you say you have to pay atonement money, whose blood is being atoned for? Is it b'dmei nizik? Is the kaifer assessed according to the nizik's value, meaning it's that guy who was killed, you have to atone for his blood? Or b'dmei mazik? The kaifer is assessed according to the mazik's value. You have to atone for your own blood, that your animal had killed the person whose value is being given. Some of the important terms and concepts of today's daf are in the although we know what's called the chamisha dvar, when someone injures his friend, there's 4 extra payments besides nezik, and one of them is baishas, or the baisha is unique, that you're not going to be liable until you intend specifically to shame that person. There's a difference if someone puts a hot coal on someone's chest and the guy dies, then you're going to be pater. As the Gemara is going to explain, he should have taken it off himself. But if you put it on his garment that gets burnt, then you can be chayiv because, no, I don't have to take it off. Fine, you'll burn my clothing, you'll have to pay me. We begin the third parak. If someone, which is called parak hamaniach, someone puts a jug, b'rshus ra'am, in the street, and someone comes along, he trips on it, and he breaks it. So he's potter, he's exempt from breaking the guy's jug. If he gets injured walking, and he trips on that jug, the owner of the barrel is going to be liable for that damage. The Gemara talks about the concept of that a person, when he's walking, he has to look where he's going and walk, and therefore it's somewhat a person's responsibility to make sure he sees where he's walking. Then the Gemara ends off with the Talmudic principle of Avid Inish Dinu L'Navshei. A person could do his own judgment, when there's a situation of loss. Everyone agrees that you could stand up and take the law into your own hands. The machlokes is regarding when there's no peseda, can you also do that? And in Hilchot Mamacharav is the concept that when it comes to monetary law, you don't go after majorities. So begin the current daf. First, to quickly review some of these teachings of Rabbah, which all share a similar theme that we mentioned in the previous daf. Rabbah had said, if Zar Kli Meresh Agag, someone threw his own utensil from a roof, another person broke it with a stick before it landed. So the second person says pata because mana tfira taver. The kli was already considered broken from when it was thrown. Another halach, he said, so it's interesting. Sar kli meresha gag b'hoyu tachtav kar maksasa. So ba'achav esilkan akadam esilkan pata. So someone threw another person's utensil on the roof while there were cushions below, and he or a second person then removed the cushions before it landed and it broke. Both people are pater. Why? Because the misalik is pater because grama bin nizakin haba. He merely caused the damage indirectly. The Zerik is part because we're in the Shadye, Pesuka Mifsiki Giri. The moment he threw it, the Kli was not meant to be broken because there were cushions. So even if he's the same person, those are 2 different actions, and neither one of those actions have a liability. The last halacha we mentioned from Rabbah was Zarek Tenik Meresh Agag, Uba'achav Akil B'Sayev. So a person threw a child from a roof, the second person caught it on his sword and it died. The Zerik is part the child did not die because of him. So the Mikabel, it depends on the machlekes of Rabbi Rabbanan regarding hikuas or b'nei adam asar maklis. 10 people beat a person until he died. So the Rabbanan hold beim b'asachas beim b'asachas kulam b'turin all can be parted from misa because Rashi explains they understand the pasuk ish kiyak kol nefesh adam meisumas adik kol nefesh, the entire nefesh. Ibn Beseira holds if it's at the same time the old pater, but b'zachas the last one's going to be chayiv nishakirav misasa, he completed the misa. And kol nefesh is translated kol b'hu nefesh, even part of the nefesh. So therefore, that's the machlekes of Zarek Tenim Meresh Agag, Barach B'Kibla B'Sayev. According to Rabbanan, the Zarek and the Mekabel would be B'turin because they both contributed to the death. According to Beseir, the Zarek would be put to the Mekabel B'Chayev because he's the last one. He was Kiriv Misase. Now we're up to the next case on the second line down at the top of the Amud and of Chav Zayin with Aleph. Bos Shor. Let's say an ox came, a Shor Hamuid, and the Kibloi, he received this child that was thrown off the roof, Bikarnov, with his horns, and the child landed on the horns of the ox in the Shor Hamud, because the halacha that we're going to talk about right now of Kaifer is only by Shor Hamud, and the child died. So Plukti Rabbi Shmuel Benai Rabbi Yechon ben Bereika, Machlekes of Rabbi Shmuel, who is the son of Rabbi Yechon ben Bereika, V'Rabbanan, regarding Kaifer. The time like Linda Braisa, a general machlekes regarding Kaifer, the pasuk says in Shemais, when the Shor Hamud kills a person, the Nasan Pidyon Nafshay. So the owner of the ox has to give his redemption of his soul. Who is his? Who is the pronoun? So Tanakam the Rabban said Demei Nizik. It's the value of the victim. That you have to redeem the victim's blood that was spilled. Shmuel ben Neish Rabbi Yechon ben Bereika says no Demei Mazik. The value of the mazik, the owner of the ox, his blood needs an atonement for having had his ox kill someone else. So according to Bishmal, that says kaifer is evaluated the mazik. Okay, so the owner of this ox will pay kaifer. But according to the Rabbanan that evaluate the nizik, so there in this situation, this child had no damim anymore once he was thrown off the roof because he was going to die. So it's similar to mana tvir taver, gaver ketela katel. You're killing a dead person, and therefore, according to him, you're going to be pater. So depending how you qualify kaifer, if it's the main mazik or the main nizik, will be if this Shor Hamud catches the baby on the thorns, which would have died anyway had it hit the floor, so it didn't have value. That's the same machlekes that we have over here. Another teaching from the Amar Rabbah. Again, these are all jumping from the roof, thrown from the roof. Nafal Meresh Agag. Someone fell from the top of a roof, Nitka be'isha, and he got inserted into a woman. So Chai b'dal dvarm, he's liable for 4 damages. Now Rashi points out, for example, where there was a common wind, so that's close to being amazed, to being deliberate. We're not talking about some wind that took you like 100 miles away, whatever. No, it was like a regular wind. You should have known that the wind was blowing that way and threw you down. So for those 4 things you're liable. Now, if this woman who was there on the ground zero was his Yavama, even though the Gemara in Yavama stuff in Gimel base tells us that if someone has bia with his Yavama, whether by mistake, whether deliberately he acquires her, that's only where a person is intending, at least that it should be a Maisa bia. He just thought it was like for another woman. But here, this man who fell off the roof and he got inserted into the woman, he was not intending for any bia. So therefore, he's not going to acquire her. And if therefore subsequently one of the other brothers does a mimer with her, they're going to invalidate her on him because he has not acquired her. As the Gemara explains. When we say he's chayv for dalad dvarim, not hey, because his chayv is liable for nezek, the damages, b'tzar, the pain, b'ripa, the doctor bills, b'sheves, the loss of work, of a boishis loy. But the shame that he caused this woman, he's not going to be liable for, because now we learn the Mishnah later on that Peivav Mabeis, that in a chayv ala boishis, a person not liable for shaming another person, until he's intending it. And here he fell. So he's liable because it's close to being mazed from the fact of that you should have known that the wind's going to knock you off. But regarding the halacha baishas, that is not miskav. And the same thing is really regarding acquiring the yavama. Even though you didn't realize and you're at night, you think this is some other person or whatever, some other who knows what, and you're doing this maisa, you turn out it's the yavama. Well, that's going to be kaina because that's bishkaga. But if you're not intending to do a maisa be at all, you just get inserted. So then that's not going to be acquiring the yavama. Another teaching from Amar Rabbah is, again, Nofal Merei Shagag. If someone falls off from the top of the roof, Beruach She'eina Mitzuya, from an uncommon wind, Behizik Ubayish, and he damaged someone by falling off and he embarrassed the person. So, Chayv al Nezek, you'll be liable for damage because the person is Adamud La'olam, Bein B'Shaygig, Bein Ba'inis, Bein Baratz, and you're always Chayiv for that. But apart from Dalad, you'll be exempt from the other 4 damages because those are only when you're, like we said, b'mezid or carved lemezid. Here it was like almost, it was a oinus. Now, beruach mitzuya, but let's say it was a common wind, behizik ubayish, and he damaged and he embarrassed. So chay b'dal dvam, then you'll be liable for the 4 things. because it was your negligence. But a patal abayshis, like we said, you're exempt from embarrassing the person because you didn't intend to embarrass the person. Now, vimnis hapich, if after he started falling, so he flipped himself over, he's intending to fall on the person for his pleasure, to let's say cushion his fall, then chayav afal abayshis. Then he's going to be liable even for the shame, even though he's not intending to shame the person, but is intending to land on the person. That you're going to be chayav. The time like learn the brisa. From the fact that the pasuk says in the Varm, the pasuk is talking about when men are fighting together, a man and his fellow, and the wife of one of them comes to save her husband from the one who's hitting him. So the pasuk says, "V'sholcha yada," she stretches out her hands, and the pasuk says that she grabs a hold of b'mavushav, in the shameful place of a man. Okay, so any day shechzika don't I know that she grabbed a hold? You should have just said v'sholcha yada. She stretched out her hand. We know what she's doing. So what's this verzika that she's grabbing a hold? Oh, to tell you, the one she's intending to harm, meaning she's only intending to grab a hold, even though she's not intending to shame, you can be chayiv in the chamisha dvarim, you can be chayiv for nezik tzar ripur sheves and boishes. For mavushav, you can be chayiv for the busha, even if you're just intending to, not even if you're intending to embarrass, you're just intending to grab a hold of it, but it's bim mavushav, then you can be chayav for boishes. And that we see, even if you're not intending, so like this person who's flipping over just to catch his fall on the other person, even though there's not a skab on the vaish, but in the skab on the hazik, then you can be chayav for busha too. Another teaching from Amar Rabba says, someone puts a hot coal on a person's chest, and the person dies. Potter, the mazik is exempt because the person who was put on should have taken it off. Al big divinissa, but let's say put in the guy's garment and the guy's jacket gets burnt. Chayiv, the mazik is chayiv because he didn't have to remove it because he thinks, you know what, I'll take him to court, he'll pay me up. Now, Amar Rava says regarding this teaching of Rabba, Tarvaya Tanini, both these have a Tanoic source. Ali boy, the halacha that he's put to be put on the guy's chest, that you're exempt. There's now we learn the Mishnah Masechta Sanhedrin. This is the following halacha: Kavash alav l'toich ha'ur or l'toich hamayim. Someone is holding a person down in the fire or in the water. Ben yochalalas misham. Guy is holding him underwater. He can't catch his breath, can't come out. Umeis and he dies, and he holds him down over there until he dies. Chayiv. The murderer is going to be liable for the guy's death. But let's say he pushes him into the fire, or into the water. You could come out, but he doesn't. Umeis and he dies. But is exempt. So that's the halacha that you can't execute a murderer for something that the victim could have gotten out from. Now, big guy, the halacha that you're liable for the garment, it's not like we'll learn Mishnah later on. Tzadik Peizim and Aleph. Mishnah says, let's say someone tells someone, "Karas kasusi, you could tear my garment." Shavez kadi, break my. He doesn't say you could. He says tear my garment. Shavez kadi, break my jug. Chayiv, the one who does it is going to be liable. Why? Because like Rashi explains, he's telling him, look, if you want to go ahead, tear it, but you'll pay. But let's say he specifies and he says amanas lifter. Yeah, tear it, burn it, and on the condition that you'll be exempt. Well, then you'll be exempt. So we see, but if you don't say that, even if you tell the guy tear it or burn it, so therefore you're going to be chayiv, because the guy is saying, hey, I'll take him to court. And that's the same thing in this halacha too. Now, related question, the Gemara says, by Rabba. Rabba asks like this. What's the halacha if he puts the coal on the chest of his slave? Taisa says it has to be talking about that the slave is bound, but his master is standing right next to him. And he explains that the Eved doesn't die, he just gets injured. So that's the question over here. But be there as it may, the question is, kugufa dami? Do we consider like his body? In other words, if a person puts a hot coal on his slave's chest, he's going to be exempt because Rashi learns, not like Taisa, should have removed it. Taisa learns a little bit different. The master should have removed whatever it is, but the point is, it's like a body that you say, yeah, you have to remove it. Like command them, or you say, no, maybe it's like his money. Just like my jacket, like, yeah, go ahead, kill him, burn him, you'll pay me. So maybe the same thing is regarding the body of the slave. If you say that it's like its body, because no, a human being, you don't say, yeah, kill him, whatever, and or and then pay me. So he'll be potter. So the question is, shiur mahu. What's halacha with his ox? Ox is also a living thing. Would you say also it's the same thing like a jacket? So the Gemara says, how the pasha. Subsequently, he answered it. Avdi kegufay, a slave is like his body, meaning the one who put the coal will be exempt because a human being would remove it. But shiur k'mamoneh, his ox is like his money because an ox, although it's a living thing, doesn't have its own intelligence to remove the coal. And if the one who put it will be liable for having killed them. Hanrolach Ketzad Regel. We shall return to the second parak in Masechta Bava Kama Ketzad Regel, which really, like the name of the parak was really Ketzad. It was really explaining the mazikim of shiur, keren, chain, and regel. And with that, we continue to the third parak in Masechta Bava Kama, parak Hamaniach, which continues on the halachas of nazikin, of damages with the adam hamazik and other related mazikim of boir that we spoke about in the beginning of the Masechta. Says the Mishnah, Hamaniach azakad b'shusharab. Someone places his jug in the street. He puts down this a bottle of Coke. Someone else comes along and trips on his bottle, on his jug. The shavar and the guy breaks it. So Pater, the Gemara is going to explain the reason. The one who breaks it is going to be exempt. Let's say the guy is walking and he trips on this guy's jug, and now he gets injured. So the owner of the barrel is going to be liable for his damage, which the Gemara is going to explain why is this the halacha. But the Gemara first has a very technical question on the wording of the Mishnah. If you notice, there's a discrepancy. It's maybe on the back of the I don't know, I forget what it's called, highlights or whatever. What's different? What's wrong with this picture? What's different? These two different pictures. Pasach bekad v'sayim b'chavis. If you notice, when we describe the case, it said hamanech asakad b'shus. Someone puts his jug down in the street, and then we said that if someone gets injured with it, bal hachavas chayev, the owner of the barrel is going to be liable. So you open up a jug, v'sayim b'chavis. You're talking about a barrel. What are you talking about? A jug or a barrel? So to it nami. There's a Mishnah later on the Flaman Alpha Beis. Says Zeba b'chavita. This guy's walking with his barrel. V'zeba b'kailasa. This guy's walking the street with his beam. And then boom, these two people, they're not looking where they're walking. Nishbur kadosh shel zeh b'karasa shel zeh. This guy's jug gets broken from this guy's beam. So he said, Potter, as we'll see over there, both of them have permission to be walking in the street. So they're exempt for his beam having broken this guy's jug. But the question is, Pasach b'chavis, you open up, you say, Zeba b'chavita. This guy's walking with his jug, with his barrel. And v'sayim b'kad, then you end with a jug. You say, Nishbur kadosh shel zeh. So are we talking about a jug? Or are we talking about a barrel? It's not nami, a third question, third source. I have a Mishnah Kuf Tezvav Medal. Zeba b'chavita shel yain. This guy's coming with his barrel of wine. Zeba b'kadish shel dvash. This guy's coming with his jug of honey. Nistika chavish shel dvash. And then if the barrel of honey breaks, v'shavach zayeni. So this guy walking next to him going, "Oy vey, this guy's honey is going to waste." He pours out his wine. V'hitlas advash l'toicha. He saves that guy's honey into his barrel because honey is more expensive ounce for ounce than the wine. So the guy who did this, who spilled out his wine, he only gets paid like a regular worker. The owner of the honey does not have to pay him for the amount of wine that this guy spilled out. Okay, that we'll see later on this Masechta. But the point is that Pasach Bekad. You opened up talking about a jug. You said this guy was coming Bekad Shalvash with his jug of honey. And V'sayim B'chavish, you end with a barrel. You say Nistiko Chavish Shalvash. You say that and the barrel of honey got cracked. So what are we talking about in these three Mishnayos? Jugs or barrels? Why do we switch the terminology? So my papa says Hainu Kad, Hainu Chavis. What is a jug is a barrel. It's the same thing. Therefore, we interchange the terminology so that you know that what is the same lexicon. L'may nafkamina, says Gemara. What's the difference? I just switched it just to show it's the same, like similar type of thing. A synonym, basically, whatever. So Gemara says, L'may nafkamina, what's the difference? Why is it so important for the Tana to tell me this? Because for business, that if let's say someone tells him, I'm going to sell you a chavis or a kad, the seller could choose whichever one he wants to, even though he made it with him a chavis, which really a barrel sounds like something bigger. If he wants to give him a kad, a jug, which is smaller. So he must have, wait a second. That's Heichadami. What's the case talking about? If it's a place where a jug is not called a barrel. V'chavas l'karakada, and the barrel is not called a jug. Haloi kachala, they don't call it the same thing. Obviously, you can't give a jug if you said a barrel. No, loy tzricha, no. The case is talking about the juba karla l'kada kada. Most people call a jug, l'chavita chavita, and a barrel. The ikanami the kol l'chavita kada. But there are those who call a chavis a kad, l'kada chavita, and call a kad a chavis. Mao the time what would you say zilbasa ruba that we go after the majority, and the majority call a barrel. If you told me you're going to sell me a barrel, you got to give me a barrel. Don't give me a jug, because the majority of people call a chavis a chavis. But it's continued with bays kamash malon. That's the chiddush that we're telling you in these mishnayos by changing the terminology that the ein holchem b'mammon acharoi. We don't go after the majority when it comes to monetary law, meaning, as Rashi explains, where we're not sure regarding a situation like over here. Or, for example, like we'll see later in the Mevav Medav, someone sells a shiur, an ox, to his friend. Turns out it's a goring ox. This ox you can't hold on to. We don't say, let's go after the majority. And most people, when they buy an ox, what do they buy it for? For plowing. This ox, I can't use to plow. This ox goes crazy. He'll kill every worker, every thigh worker I have, will kill him, and comes out that it's a mekach tayis. No. We say, the seller could say, I sold it to you for slaughtering. Obviously, people buy oxen for the meat too. Now, even though the majority buy it for plowing, we don't go after the Rebbe when it comes to monetary law. And that's the same thing over here. They were teaching you that kad and chavis, even though most people call it a chavis and a kad, but there are some who don't. And I could tell you when I sold you a chavis, I was selling you a kad. Because by mom, we don't go after the Rebbe. Which Taisa discusses why don't we go after the Rav? Why don't we b'din nefashis? Taisa discusses regarding why that is like that. But upon them by Mammon, we don't go after the Rav. Now the Mishnah continued and said,
is there some type of a requirement for the Torah according to the Torah to disclose anything he knows about what he's selling?
There's a requirement for him to sell. Well, they really describe. I hear. You're saying if he knew that this guy, it sounds like he doesn't know that this guy.
It doesn't matter. Don't find something from you, you know that the cow is and you didn't disclose that.
Right, but if it's for shchita, I don't have to disclose it.
How do I know what you're buying?
And the Chadami, so why do I have to tell you everything about the product that I'm selling you? Right, and the Chadami said. So these are the halachas of really mekach toyes. So these are really sugyas that talk about that. You cannot do anything actively deceptive, but you don't necessarily have to disclose everything about your product. That's really usually the buyer's responsibility to find out with shidduchim, right? You're not going to tell everyone your problems, all your problems, right? So you never get a shidduch, right? So I'm saying, but but you're not supposed to be actively deceptive. But you don't have to. But in something very big, then you do have to disclose. So obviously, this is a huge topic to delve into. Now the Mishnah said, so let's say this guy's walking the street, and this guy left his bottle over there. This, besides the cigarette butts, all the bottles over there. And this guy's walking the street, and he trips and he gets injured. That's it. So the first case the Mishnah said was if shaver, he breaks it. Then potter. So this guy left his nice little Contigo bottle, with his hot cocoa there, and you break it. So what are you leaving on the street over here? Potter is potter for breaking it. Says Gemara, why am I potter? Why is he potter? What's haste? You should look where you're going. Didn't your mother ever tell you that? So therefore you should be chayiv. Now Taisa says, we're not asking on the other half of the halacha. There's two halachas in our Mishnah. One halacha is when he walks and he breaks it, he's potter. Other half of the halacha says if he trips on it, well then the one who owns that Contigo bottle is going to be chayiv for your damage. The Gemara is not asking why is he chayiv. What do you mean? Watch where you're walking. Well, I'm not going to pay for your damages. Now you klutz, you knocked your head over here, and you have the doctor. I'm responsible. Says Taisa, no. Because Taisa discussed this already in Chav Gimel. He says a very interesting qualification. He says a person has to be more careful not to cause harm than to get harmed. So therefore, the fact that person tripped and got injured is less negligence than having caused someone else harm. I tell you this established. This is on Daf Chav Gimel. It's also not considered kol mashana ba'acha b'shina by that you could be pater, because we never said that by a person regarding having acted differently. And Taisus also.
Taisus says that from Sfara.
Which part?
That he has to be more cautious.
Well, Taisus has rayas. This is Taisus on Daf Chav Gimel and Alf, the Masal Chayiv, where he proves this point. He also says that there's a difference between how people walk and animals walk. An animal is always looking down, so therefore that's why we say boile liyune. But by a human being, it's not really like as if he should have watched where he's going, because the person is not looking directly down on the floor. But Akapanim just explains that the question is specifically here on why is he exempt from breaking the battle. He should be chayiv because he broke someone else's bottle. So on that, the Gemara has a few different approaches for this question. Amr Nebei Rav, there was said in the Shiva of Rav, Mishmei Rav, the name of Rav, the guy filled up the whole street with barrels. So you can't pass without breaking the bottles. So this guy puts all his stuff out here, you walk out of the doors over here, and this guy has all his bottles in the way. So for that reason, a person is not going to be responsible for having broken the bottle. Another approach, says the Gemara Shmuel, he says, no, we're talking about feilah shanu. It's dark, so I couldn't see. When you're breaking all your kids' toys when you're walking there somewhere, how am I supposed to see that his new fire engine truck was there? It's just laying there on the floor. It's dark. I couldn't see. So the same thing over here. The guy left it in the street, or when it was dark. So he says a third approach. He says bekeren zavis. We're talking about if you're turning from the large mavoi into the other mavoi from the on the side, and he left it by the corner of the mavoi. So when this guy turns, he doesn't see it coming. So therefore, again, it's not considered boile liyunimeza. I should have looked. I'm not expecting that when I'm turning to knock right into this guy's barrel, and therefore he's going to be pater. So the Gemara says, Amar Papa says, Loideka masnitin. Our mission is not really precise. There's three interpretations. He says two of them make sense for our Mishnah, because the one who left the barrels, according to those pshatim, was not negligent, because he just left it there. So therefore, if someone trips, then we say, okay, you break the guy's thing that you tripped on, you're going to be pater. But if you deliberately break it, why are you deliberately breaking this guy's contigo? Because you don't like people who leave their stuff in the street? This is why you hear breaking it. But the Ikar Rav, the Holik Rav, that held that it's talking about where the guy filled up the whole street with barrels. So then the difficulty is, my area nitkel, why does the Mishnah say only if a guy trips on the barrel and he breaks it? Is he going to be pater afilu shavanami? What do you mean? Even if you break it, you go and you kick it and you break it, you should be pater, because this was a negligence of the owner of the barrel. According to other pshatim, the guy wasn't negligent, so fine, you trip, you're not responsible. But if you deliberately break, we know why you'd be chayiv. But according to Rav, why are you going to be chayiv? So Amar Rabbi actually says no. Who then the truth is that filishever. It's not true. You're right. According to Rav, the halacha of the Mishnah, not only if he trips on it and breaks it, even if he goes and he kicks it and he breaks it, he's going to be pater. So why are you saying the lesser chiddush of tripping? That's I did by the Mishnah Seifetz, because we want to learn the other half of the halacha of the last line of the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, there's two things: breaking the guy's barrel or injuring yourself on the guy's barrel. So the Mishnah said, if he injured himself on it, the owner of the barrel is going to be liable for his damages. Oh, that's the dafka nitkal. That's only if the guy was walking and he tripped and he got injured. But if he deliberately broke it, and then now that the people that they're angry and they break something and then he gets injured on those pieces himself, then then the owner of the chav is going to be exempt. My time, what's the reason? Who does? He injured himself. It's your own ignorance that caused yourself to get injured. So therefore, the first half of the halacha also said nitkal tripping, but you're right, that's not dafka that you can be exempt when you trip. Even if you're a delivery breaker, you can be exempt. It's just for the guy to pay for your damages. If you punched it and then you have your splinters in your hand and then you get infected, that's going to be your own fault. It's only if you trip, then he's chayiv on your damages. Now, Amalei Reb Abel Rav Ashi, he's going back on the halacha of the Mishnah. In other words, don't say like Shmuel and Rabbi Yechanan that's talking about either that it's dark or that it's talking about a corner. No, even if it's in the light, the one who trips is going to be pater. But then you had a question that says, what do you mean? Should look where he's going. So he says, Hachi Amr b'marav mishmei de Rabula. This is what they said in Eretz Yisrael in the West in the name of Rabula. No, it's not true. Why not? It's not the norm for people to be looking at the roads and see where they're going. And therefore, he's going to be pater for breaking the guy's stuff. You don't say, well, watch where you're going. Where watch am I going? I'm actually looking down at the floor and I'm walking, and therefore he's going to be pater. Now, the Gemara brings actually have a uvda ben Arda. There was this episode that happened in Arda, in Bavel. Shmuel actually held the one who tripped responsible to pay for the guy's barrel that he broke. But Medisa, there was a story of Rava, and Rava held that he was responsible. So the Gemara wonders, says, wait a second. Bishleim Shmuel, understand Shmuel's Kishmaite is going according to his teaching, that he explained that when did the Mishnah say that if you trip and you break someone's barrel, you're going to be pater, it's because it's dark. But when it's light outside, watch where you're walking. You broke my barrel, you have to pay. Adamud la'ilam. But Rava, why did he hold it? Really? Do we have to say that he holds like Shmuel, that it's only your pater in the Mishnah because it was dark, but it was light, then you're going to be chayv, as we see he made the guy pay? So the Amar Papi says, no, not necessarily. You could say that he holds that it was Karna de Atzrahava. It was the corner near the pressing house. The Kivan de B'Shus Ka'avdi, since that the one who put it there did it with permission, because that was their custom. When the olive press was full of people, the mikveh is full. So people are putting down their stuff outside in the street, and they're waiting till the people come out. So Erev Yom Kippur, Erev Yom HaKudosh, everyone's there, and this guy puts down his phone right outside the mikveh in the street. There's no room over there. Then you should look, this guy's glasses is over there outside, where you step on his glasses. You should have looked, because everyone puts their stuff over here. So therefore, it's not necessarily a raya that he held like Shmuel. Could be he would hold that generally you would be pater. Here, the reason why you're going to be chayiv is because this was a different type of a case. We have to expect that people put it over there. Now, relating back to the halacha of the Mishnah, the Gemara brings the following teachings. Sholach li Rav Chizla Rav Nachman. Rav Chizla sent to Rav Nachman, Hare Amru. They said, meaning the custom of the judges to collect from someone who kicks his friend, L'rechuva, if he kicks him with his knee, Shalish, he has to pay 3 slaim for the shame, because there's a greater shame by kneeing someone than just pushing him with your hands. It's a bigger shame. Uleve'ita, and if you kick him with your foot, Chamish is even more shameful. That's 5 slam. If you take the saddle of a donkey and you hit your friend with that, well, this is going up now. Shleish Esrei. That's 13 slum for his shame, besides all the other liabilities, because that's a very disgraceful way of pushing someone away. Now, however, lefanda demara, if you use the handle of a shovel, belukafina demara, or the blade itself that's near the hole, what's the halacha, meaning of the shovel? What's the halacha if you push him with that? So he knew certain categories how much the shame would be. But these two, the handle and the blade near the hole of the shovel, what's the halacha if you push him with that? So Shalach Lei, Rav Nachman sent back to Rav Chizda, who said, I know these cases, just tell me what these cases. It's Chizda, Knasa Kamagris Bavavel. You're collecting penalties in Bavel, meaning Baishes is a Knas. It's not the actual hezek itself. So how are you going, and what are you even asking for? Would you make payments of Baishes in Bavel? So he says, Emily Gufa de Uvda, tell me the exact story of this handle of the shovel and the blade of the shovel. Hey Chahaba, what was the story? So Shalchli sent to him, Tahu Gargusa de Beitre. There was this cistern, the pit of water that was there to water the fields that was owned by 2 people. Every day, one of them, they each switched off alternate days every day was one person's turn to draw water. Asachad, one guy came, and he was drawing the water on the day that's not his. Amalei said to him, "What do you mean, Yom This is my day." He didn't pay attention to him. So Shakal Pande Demagas, this was the story why Rav Chizr was asking. So he took the handle of a shovel and Machia, guy gave him a clap. He hit him with it. So Amalei Rav Nachman said, "Oh, that was the story? Meya Pandi Bepandi Lemachaye." Meaning, 100 hits, he should have hit him because he was stealing his water. Meaning, even according to the one who holds that you're not allowed to take the law into your own hands, meaning even if you're doing the true judgment, you can't do it yourself. You have to go to the Ruv, you have to go to the Dayan, you have to go and hear what the psak is and let him enforce the law. So even according to the one that generally holds that you're not allowed to take the law into your own hands, however, b'makom pseida, a situation of loss, meaning if when this guy's drawing your water, you're going to go running and calling on your phone and WhatsApping the Ruv and asking him what to do, in the meantime, this guy already drew all your water. And you're not going to know what he took, or maybe he's going to use up all the water in the pit, and he's not going to have anything to pay up, and it's going to be a total loss. In such a situation, of it in the Shdil Navshe, you're allowed to do the law on your own, because the Idma we learned it's actually machlekes. What he was trying to say is he wanted to know, what's this case? What do you want to ask about the story? The guy hit him with the shovel because regarding the liability of the boishes that he caused to the victim. He says, what? You're allowed to do this. You're allowed to take the law into your own hands and stop the guy from taking your water. He's not listening to you. You give him a clap. Oh, where is it learned out from? It's a sugya. We're learning it right now. This is one of the sources.
This is the classic sugya.
Yeah, so this is where the Gemara is bringing this idea.
There are those apostles that not mutter.
Yeah, that you can't take the law into your own hands. But what the Gemara is telling us is that when it's a situation of loss, then everyone agrees you could stop the guy from the perpetrator if it's going to be a loss. If it's not going to be a loss, so we say you can't take the law in your hand. You'll get collections later on, whatever it is. But the Idma we learned, Rabbi Yehuda Amar says, "Lo aved in shdil nafshe." Yehuda holds, yeah, you can't take the law into your own hands. Again, if it's not a situation of loss, where you're not going to have an irretrievable loss by waiting.
Didn't we learn also somewhere by collection? Someone who has money if he didn't take the money, he would not have been able to collect his money.
And then what did we say that? Well,
he was allowed to take it.
Yeah, well, that's this principle of irretrievable loss. So Rabbi Yehuda says, but if it's not, then not, because you have to present your claim before Bezdin. If Nachman he says no, of it inish dil nafshe, a person could do the law on his own, take the law in his own hand, and even when there's no loss, but as long as he's doing the true justice. Now, they can say, but that's what when there's a loss, call him a no one's going to disagree. The of it inish dil nafshe, a person could take the law in his own hands. Like we're saying, keep leaking. The whole machlek is this when there's no loss. Rabbi Yehuda says la of it inish dil nafshe, and the Gemara is going to explain now why. Well, a person cannot take the law in his own hand. The given like says, there's no loss. You're not a judge. The Torah has shayftim b'shayftim. You have to have the Jewish justices go ahead and decide this law. Nachman says, no, a person could take the matters into his own hands. Why? To keep in the bedin of it, since he's doing what the justice is. He doesn't have to go through the effort and going to the dayanim and go through the whole court case when you're doing the proper halacha. Now, Master of Kahana. Now, once we brought in this machlekes, so the Gemara now asks on Rabbi Yehuda, who said that a person cannot take the matters into his own hands when there's no loss, from the following brisa. Ben Bagbag Oimer. So you see, he is quoted elsewhere. Ben Bagbag says, "Al tekanis lechatza chavercha." Don't go into your friend's courtyard, meaning stealthily and surreptitiously and bigneva, like lital eshel to take what's really yours without permission. Because Shematir Love Kaganav, rather you might appear to him like a thief, because you're coming in the sneaking of the night trying to get back that lawnmower you lent him like a few months ago that he never ever decides to return to you. Come at night, you pick up his garage door and you take it back. Don't do that. El Shabar Shinav, break his teeth. In other words, take it forcibly, this is the concept of it in the Dil Navshe. says, he picks him up by the lapel and he says, and he tells him, Shaliani Naito, I'm taking back what's mine. Now, this is difficult on Rabbi Yehuda because this is not a situation of irretrievable loss. It's not Mokum say the guy's had your lawnmower, your leaf blower, your snow blower, whatever it is, your kid's bike, whatever it is, for already 5 months. It's not a situation of loss. But you see, and Tosfos points this out that we're talking about that there's no loss from the fact that we said that you're not allowed to go in without that you're not going without permission. So obviously it's avid unzenavshe even shlebemakim seder. So that amalei, so he responded back to this question as contained top of Chav Chesed and Aleph, imach, with you. In other words, and what you think that this is an appropriate response, or like it's a good question, or another interpretation Rashi says is that with you will be a response that what you're saying is nothing, because ben bagbag yichidohu, be asking from ben bagbag, he's an individual tana. Plig Rabban the land, Rabban disagree, and therefore it's not difficult. Forget they hold like me, says of Yehuda, that you cannot take the matters into your own hands, right? They say that you can't. They say it's only teaching of ben bagbag. Or Rabbi Yomi says a different interpretation. He says, "My shaveshinav." What does ben bagbag mean? That you break his teeth? It means bedin, meaning take him to court. Don't sneak into his house. Take him to the roof and tell him what's going on. So Moshe says, if that's the case, why say v'amar loy and tell him v'oimrim loy mebaylesh? They tell him. The Bezdin will say that he's taking back what's rightfully his. And moreover, shaliani naitil. Why is he saying I'm taking back mine? Shalayhu naitil mebayle. His he's taking back is what should it say? It's not a tiyut. It's a difficulty. Then why the terminology would be talking about him? It would be mishabir, the din, and not taking the matters into his own hands. Thank you to any time for listening.